So we're so pleased to have Jill Kelly here. So Jill, please come up.
Okay, I don't want to go on a book tour now. Thank you, Phil Yancey. And Ted, whoa. But I want to read your books. So I'm intrigued, and you're right. I think we have to touch the younger generation in a big way because we're losing them. I have 2 girls that are growing up, and they're hungry. They're hungry for truth. They're hungry for story. They're hungry for so many things that this world really is not obviously giving them. But they want to find it in Jesus. So I just thank you for what you're doing. And I'm scared to read your books, but I'm going to venture out. Thank you, Chuck, Mr. Swindoll. I feel as I should call you Mr. Swindoll, for just giving me the encouragement to come up here earlier and just be who I am. Because that's all I can be. I am a mom. Thank you, Dr. David Jeremiah, as well, for loving football. And at least being able to communicate with me on a football level, because, you know, I came in here and wasn't so sure about the football part of this whole story, but you've encouraged me and your wife Donna just by being in your presence. I'm honored and I'm blessed to be here. And although I have been called an author to come up here and share our story, I am crazy about the author of life. I am crazy about the one who rescued me in the midst of suffering. I'm in awe of the one who rescued my marriage through the suffering of our only son. I'm in awe of the way God has rescued our family, our extended family, my mother, my father, my brother, his entire family, and so on, and so on, and so on. But it was the suffering of our one and only son that brought us to the beauty of the only suffering that ultimately matters. I am so incredibly in awe of the fact that I am here right now in this very moment to share a story that broke me in every way. A mother, a wife, and a woman can be broken. I have been to the depths of despair and grief, places that I do not ever want to go back to. But in those places, in those moments of deep despair and in desperation, God was still there. But I had to get to know this God, to know that. And it took our son, Hunter James Kelly, the boy who never spoke a word, but without a word changed everything. It took a diagnosis when he was 4 months old for the prodigy son that my husband Jim, the football player, just in case you don't know, I'm married to Jim Kelly. And if you're not a Bills fan, you can leave. So. Because if you're not a Bills fan, you're really kind of like no fan. And you're so proud of me for saying that. So there's one for you, Jim. But it took being diagnosed at 4 months old when we had so many plans for Hunter. My husband Jim certainly saw him out in the backyard throwing the football. Wanted him to go on all the hunting trips that he had planned to take him on as he grew up. It took sitting in a doctor's office being told that our son would not live to see his 2nd birthday for our lives to change. It took his suffering every single day on oxygen, with a tube, being tube-fed, suctioned 24/7, for us to wake up. But I want you to know that as heart-wrenching and as cut to the heart and very deeply wounded we are and were as a result of walking through that, we have greater joy than we have ever experienced, only because Jesus himself intervened in our family. In the midst of that suffering, God took us to his suffering, took us to the cross where we can run to him with our suffering and find that there is actually beauty and joy in the midst of it. Only God can do that. We did not know. Someone from behind the curtain. I want to love you, whoever you are.
It's the Holy Spirit.
It took that despair, that brokenness, those moments of being told that we would not watch our son to grow up, to run to the God we did not know. For me, it was for selfish reasons. I wanted heaven. I didn't know what heaven was or what it was about. I was raised in a denomination that did not express that you could have a relationship with God, that you could be redeemed, that you could walk in grace and mercy. I ran to that God for selfish reasons. I wanted heaven desperately because I wanted to be with my son there. And in my selfishness, and aren't we all selfish? God meets us right where we are and rescues us. I'm getting excited, sorry. In the midst of those deep, dark places that we try to run from. I'm so thankful for the trials and the suffering that God has allowed our family to walk through because we have greater joy as a result, and we know the author of joy as a result. We are different people. We have been changed. Our story has been shared many times. We've been on the Oprahs. We've done those things, but all of those opportunities have been framed by the media. This was our opportunity to tell our story. Our redemption is in this book. Our trials in our marriage. First of all, I was married to an NFL quarterback. Girls, help me out here. Just that alone, just the choices that were made by my husband, that he has now been vulnerable enough to share because God has rescued him and freed him. The trials in our marriage, and then Hunter was diagnosed. The odds were stacked against us. But isn't that a perfect story for God? A perfect opportunity for the God of the universe, who can do that, to come in and rescue us in every way possible. Personally, spiritually, emotionally. This is our story. I told it to the best of my ability. I'm very thankful for incredible people who surrounded me, prayed for me. It was very, very difficult. But I'm so thankful that I did this. I'm so thankful that God allowed me to share our story in this way. And I just pray, you will do what you choose to do, but I do, and I will pray, so watch out. But I will pray that you will take this story, because I believe more than anything that the lost will be saved through the telling of our story. I believe with all of my heart that marriages will be resurrected and made new, and there will be love restored that was lost, because we are a happy married couple. It's crazy, but it's true. After all that we have been through, what God has done in our marriage, woven throughout our story are all of these other stories of redemption that God has worked in our family. Our girls are compassionate individuals because of living with a boy who never spoke a word. And yet the love of God, the light of life, shone through that little boy in ways that are very difficult to share and explain because they were so profound. But once again, that is the God who does immeasurably more than all we could ask or imagine. He has done that through our family, and I pray, and I continue to pray, and I will continue to pray that whomever God chooses to read without a word, that they too will be changed, and that they will be encouraged, and that they will have greater hope. And I just thank you for this privilege, and I'm honored and blessed.